Annalise Michel was born September 21st, 1952 in Klingenberg, Germany, to parents Joseph and Anna Michel. Annalise was raised in a devoted Catholic home. She was described as being a very bright girl, and there wasn't anything wrong with her until 1969 when she had her first seizure. She was at school, but all of a sudden she started spazzing out and was in a trance-like state. Luckily, the seizure would stop and she would go back to normal. Nothing would happen until 1970, which was a year after her first seizure. This time she would have a seizure in the middle of the night. Parents would find her in a trance-like state, and they also saw she had wet the bed. When the seizure stopped, Annalise said that she had no idea what happened. After the seizure happened, the family would take Annalise to a neurologist who is Dr. Luthi. A neurologist is someone who is specialized in diagnosing disorders of the brain and nervous system. Luthi would come to the conclusion that Annalise was suffering from TLE, temporal lobe epilepsy. TLE is a common form of epilepsy that affects 50 million people worldwide. One of the side effects of TLE is forgetting that you had a seizure, which is the side effect that Annalise had. Luthi gave Annalise medication to help with the seizures. However, after this, the seizures kept on happening and they got worse. In the spring of 1973, Annalise said that she had heard knocking in her bedroom and voices telling her that she was going to hell. Her condition got so bad that Annalise and her family decided that they would have to put her in a psychiatric hospital because they couldn't help her anymore. However, the psychiatric hospital would try different medicine, but nothing worked. Her condition kept getting worse, and she started having visual hallucinations. Essentially, if she looked at someone's face, their face would turn into a demon. So to combat this, she would just start looking down to avoid having to see people's faces. Eventually, Annalise would start claiming that she was possessed by 6 demons. After a while, her family decided that they would need to turn to their religion to see if they can find anyone to help Annalise. Annalise would leave the hospital, and her family went to their Catholic church to see if they could help Annalise. However, the family was turned away because the church said that they couldn't do anything about it. At this point, the family had no idea what to do, and her condition was getting even worse. She started adapting these strange behaviors. One thing she would do was go under the table for 2 entire days and bark like a dog. Another thing she would do is eat coal out of the fireplace. She would also become very strong. One example of this was that when she was squeezing an apple, the apple eventually exploded. Eventually, the family found a priest who offered to help the family, whose name was Ernest Halt. Alt would talk to the bishop of the Catholic Church to let a priest help perform an exorcism. The bishop would grant an exorcism, and they found a local priest named Arnold Renz to help with the exorcism. Finally, on September 24th, 1975, the first exorcism was performed on Annalise Michel. It turns out that Renz allowed clips from this exorcism to be recorded, and in total 42 recordings were made. If you don't want to listen to this audio because it is disturbing, skip to this timestamp.
Rosenkranzmonat, weißt du ja, ne?
Ja,
Rosenkranz.
aber die wenigste beten.
Die längste.
Ja. Und in der Kirche wird am allerwenigste gebet, weil die Herrn Pfarrer ja das für unmodern halten.
Ja.
Ja.
Alle?
Fast. Die Dinger so blöd, wenn sie eine Ahnung hätten.
So if you listen to the audio, I don't think she sounds normal. For the next 10 months, there was a total of 67 exorcisms conducted. During these exorcisms, Annalise revealed the 6 demons that were possessing her. They were Cain, Judas, Lucifer, Nero, Fleischmann, and Adolf Hitler. After they were conducted, she became normal again. However, she would eventually go back to her old behavior. In the spring of 1976, she was even worse. She was biting herself and banging her head against the wall. She also became violent with her family and also with herself. She would also drop to her knees, which led to her breaking both of her kneecaps so that she could pray. At this time, she also stopped eating, and it was reported that she weighed only under 80 pounds. On June 30th, 1976, she had her last exorcism, and the following morning she was found deceased. Her cause of death was reported to be dehydration and malnutrition. At this time, this was a massive story in Germany, and people began blaming the parents for Annalise's death, and they were eventually charged with negligent homicide. However, this charge wouldn't lead them to prison because the court said that they had suffered enough. The priests were given 6 months in jail for negligent manslaughter. However, they wouldn't serve any jail time because the sentence was eventually discarded. To this day, there's still not a clear answer about how Annalise came to the state that she was in. Some people think it was the medicine she was given, but on the other hand, people think it was the exorcisms. 29 years after her death, on September 9th, 2005, a movie based on her story was released called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The audience score was 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, so take that for what you will. But in all seriousness, thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know this was a shorter video, but I will have a longer video out, soon. I just went back to school, so my upload schedule is going to go back to a little bit of a goofy. But yeah, thank you all for watching. See y'all later. Have a good one, and goodbye.